Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Grafton Select Board meeting for September 14th. I'd like to call the meeting open at 4:32. Just as a preliminary matter, my name is Peter Carlson. I'll be chairing the Grafton Select Board meeting. My role tonight will be just running the meeting. Please note, members, when I please call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mr. Fazio?
Fazio here.
Mr. Mead?
Mead here.
Mr. Often?
Upton here.
Mr. Roy?
Roy here.
Carlson's here. And if applicable, anticipated speakers on the agenda tonight, I've got Evan Brassard.
Here.
William Blake.
Here.
Great. This open meeting of the Select Board is being conducted remotely consistent with the legislative acts of 2011, Chapter 20, Section 20, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting is convened by the Zoom app as posted on the meeting agenda. Please see the meeting agenda of the town website for details on how to participate remotely. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that it may be published or rebroadcast. All participants within this meeting will be visible to all others. And finally, any meeting or any vote taken tonight will be done via roll call. This order, which you can find posted on the town's website at www.grafton-ma.gov, allows for public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Note, ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law, and this meeting will not feature any public comment this afternoon. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that as you're attending video, please be aware that if you're screen sharing your computer, that anything that you show may be rebroadcast and captured by the recording and showed to the public at a later date. All supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body are available on the town's website when final minutes are posted, unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I, the chair, will note otherwise. Just because we're all meeting on Zoom tonight, just remember the ground rules, please. Just one speaker at a time. If possible, raise your hand or use the raise hand function on the Zoom meeting. That way I know to call your name to say your remarks or say your part. And last but not least, any vote taken tonight will be conducted via roll call. All right, now that I've got that done, I want to thank you everybody who was able to make it this afternoon. I know most of us who are working, all of us who are working, sometimes, making these types of meetings can be challenging, but I just want to thank everyone for making the time. So first up, we have on the order tonight was just basically discussion of the fire department chief. I wanted to start off with just, a brief review of recent developments. So for those people who are attending or watching this meeting live, within the past 48 hours, the board held a meeting Tuesday night with interviews with finalists for the fire department chief. The board discussed and deliberated its choice on Tuesday night. From a unanimous vote from the board went to appoint chief, and within 16 hours later, the individual who was chosen by the board withdrew his name with an email to Mr. Brassard at or about 11:30 on Wednesday morning. Just so for the public's aware, we were made aware of this development yesterday. And in discussion with some board members, they felt that it was prudent to have this emergency meeting to basically discuss next steps and options moving forward. So just, for, level setting on, why there is an urgency for this meeting is that there's a calendar date in which our current fire chief will have to officially resign due to mass state law, and that would be the end of December. As you know, we're in mid-November now, and I believe, Colleen, I think you've got the clock going. There's 55 more days left that we have.
On Tuesday, there were 55 days between that and December 6th.
Okay, December 6th. So we have until technically the end of December, if I'm not mistaken, but there's not a lot of time. So as some of the board members indicated to me yesterday, they felt that it was prudent to host this emergency meeting, and here's the purpose why. So I wanted to open this up and explore next steps and options with the board and just have an open discussion now instead of waiting till Tuesday. So I put together an outline of this agenda tonight, this afternoon. It's not tonight. And let's just talk about, okay, moving forward, as a board want to talk about, the process and how it wants to move forward with remediating this. And I just wanted, this is an open discussion. And again, we can kind of move some of the items around in this agenda. We don't have to go in order. I just put this in some logical order that made sense to me. So anybody would like to go first?
Peter, can I just?
I'm sorry, Ray, I got Colleen first and then Doreen. Ray, I think we lost you. Ray, it's not working there. Would everyone mind I take a quick recess? I'm just going to call Ray on the cell phone and let him know that his connection is not working. Just bear with me here for one moment. That I just called Ray. He's moving his computer so he's closer to his Wi-Fi.
Oh, no. I guess I'm moving.
Still breaking up, Ray. Someone remind me for a holiday gift for Mr. Mead. I'll get him a Wi-Fi extender.
You got me now?
I can hear you now. Yes. Try leaving your video off and just come in via audio, Ray. Nope, we dropped off. Okay, let's just wait a minute for Ray and give him a few minutes to join us. Did everyone get a chance to be outside today? Because it was a beautiful day. Everyone shaking their heads.
I've been right here all day.
I'm just saying, it's nice out today.
Well, that sounds lovely.
You look out your window. Doesn't it look nice, Evan?
I don't have to move a whole bunch of stuff. Oh yeah, yeah, it looks great out there.
It's nice seeing everybody without masks, though. It's fun.
It is.
What are you saying? I can't hear you now.
Oh, there it is.
I don't even notice the masks anymore, Colleen. I don't know about you. I'm like so it's like my new normal.
I don't mind wearing them, but it is nice to see smiles and it is nice to, because we hang out now in our meetings, but we cover our, which is sometimes good. It's helpful when I'm making faces.
We can still tell though, Colleen.
Oh, it's true. The crazy eyes.
We all know what's happening.
Yeah.
Colleen has pointed out to me several times, like I could tell there's not a smile behind that mask.
I
Like,
do
yeah,
not.
yeah, you're right.
We can guess everybody's expression with or without the mask on.
Right, right. All right, I want to give Ray just a few more moments. He hasn't reached out to me. Oh, 1 second. Bear with me here for one moment. Instead of coming through the Zoom app. So we're just going to give him a few more moments and he'll dial in and we'll make sure he's in the panelist list here. Thank you for your patience.
Hello.
Ray, how are you? Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
We can hear you good. Thank you. Appreciate you being able to dial in. I appreciate that.
Well, I was freaking out. So
Yep, we waited. We're patient, but appreciate you appreciate coming back in. So we just opened it up for discussion with the board about exploring what those next steps and options are. And Colleen raised her hand, followed by Dorian. So I'm going to open the floor up to Colleen.
Thank
Okay.
you. So after the news broke yesterday, I've spent the last 24 hours doing a lot of research and homework. I've reached out to 2 different fire chiefs, one retired, one actively working, and kind of just picked their brains about some possibilities. And one of the next steps going forward, I would like to see us take is at least looking at the job description that we posted. One of the things I've heard a couple of times now was some of the qualifications may have limited the talent we saw apply, where they just felt like they couldn't apply. One example would be the MA fire chief credentials. Chiefs from out of state might not apply for that because they don't hold it, and we didn't include or equivalent. So they felt like they didn't have, we did get out of state people apply, but I think we may have seen more candidates apply had we written or equivalent. So I don't want to gut the description, but I would like to make some minor tweaks on it so that we can, increase the candidates that we see, because I do want to see us go out and do the search again. I spent an extensive amount of time looking at what the search committee did. They worked for almost exactly 6 months to the day. In the first 3 months, they were creating a job description, something we don't have to do again. It was a big, heavy lift, and they did that for us. So that leaves us with 3 months, and that's about what we have left now between now and December 31st. And I looked at their timeline between posting the position for 4 weeks and reviewing the candidates that come in and setting up an assessment center and then having a select board interview. It is realistic to think we might be able to pull it off by December 31st. Now, that doesn't get us somebody in the seat for January 1st. That gets us a candidate to then do a background check and negotiate, where we might have to do some kind of plan where the captains are running the show from January for 4 or 6 weeks, something like that. But that's the path I would like to see us take. I would like to see us put the position out there again and re-advertise with a slightly tweaked job description to see what kind of candidates we get.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I will add that I think it's going to require another committee, and I would like to see a new search committee. I would not like to do the process again with our existing search committee. I think they did fabulous work. They worked really hard for 6 months, but now that we're going to go through this cycle again another time, I do think it's imperative that we have a tight group made up of a specific makeup, just to prevent any possible information getting out.
Hey, Peter.
Ray, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I know that people have, members of the board have different views on this whole thing. Maybe we can just hear them all and then comment after that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I said, this is an open discussion, Ray. So I open it up to another member. I know Doreen had her hand up next. If she wants to take a shot and make a comment, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing that Ray was just getting at is how I'd like to start is, well, first of all, I want to commend the search committee for their work. I know that there was a lot of effort put in over the past 6 months from those committee members, including members of the fire department, including our police chief, working with BadgeQuest, obviously Evan. And I think they completed their charge well and got the board to where we needed to be. And so that process worked. And then I think our process worked. And I feel like, on thinking back at Tuesday night, I feel like we asked great questions. We chose a candidate, and, at the end of the day, we didn't get to where we needed to be at no fault of our own. So at this point, I hear Colleen's suggestion, and what I'd like to do is kind of put all options on the table at this point, good, bad, or indifferent, and just make sure that we're not leaving anything out, and that we've thought about all options, and to make sure we're eliminating the ones we definitely don't want to do. And so just a few that I jotted down was, we could go back and to our second choice candidate. We could look at an interim fire chief. We could collaborate with the fire chief captains on potentially running without a fire chief for a short term, and see if that's a viable option to give us some more time and see how we can support that effort. And that would include looking internally, again, at potential candidates, or as Colleen mentioned, starting the process over and starting it with a new committee, a new charge, and moving forward in that direction. So at this point, I'm strongly leaning toward input from our captains of our fire department. I feel like at this point, we have gone to the extension of what our role was. And personally, I would like to go back to the fire department and say, this is where we're at. We'd like to collaborate and get some input, and ask them too, particularly the captains, in case Colleen, even if we're to agree to your timeline, knowing that it's tight, I want to make sure that we have some sort of barriers there, and that public safety comes first, and that if timelines slip, as we know in local government they tend to do, that first and foremost we're doing what's best for the fire department and for the safety of the town of Grafton. So those are all the options that I put out there. And, I've kind of swung in different directions over the past 24 hours. And as I've made phone calls to people and, reviewed what we've done, that's kind of where I've landed right now, but I'd love to hear from everybody else.
Anybody else?
Peter, I can.
Right, go ahead.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's my view on this. I've talked to a bunch of people, and this is the situation that we're in, or the situation that took place. Although very disappointing, is not unusual. It happens in cities and towns constantly. Even after people negotiate a deal and say that they're going to start the job. So I would like to. I like Colleen's idea of putting together a new RFP and changing it a little bit. But prior to doing that, I would like to have a second interview with Chief Valentine. For some reason, the committee gave us four people, and only three made it to the finish line. I'm not sure why that happened, but I would like to interview them again. I'd like to interview Chief Valentine and Chief Bagma, he's a captain. I'm sorry, he's a captain in Milford, and do that first prior to putting together another committee and putting together all of that stuff all over again. The thought of going into January 2022 without a fire chief in place really concerns me, and I don't think that the process needs to take that long, but I think that we need to have that in our back pocket and interview Chief Valentine again, and different questions, not rating, not written down questions that everybody was supposed to ask, and we can get in depth into this with him and also Captain Bagman. So that's my thought right now.
So Ray, just a clarifying here, I only received 3 candidates from the search committee. I don't know if the rest of the board had received 4. Is that?
Well, there were 4 on the assessment. So
I understand.
4 made it to the assessment.
But
and
we received 3 finalist rays, not 4.
Well, how did he get to the assessment if he wasn't a finalist?
That's immaterial. The committee forwarded 3.
Doreen, is that
go ahead,
true?
Doreen and Colleen. Go ahead.
Peter, I can speak to why, and Evan, if you want to jump in as well. The search committee determined, knowing that we wanted to bring 3 candidates before the select board, that although Mr. Bagma was qualified, I think he interviewed well. He was actually one of my favorite candidates. He does not have the administrative experience to become a fire chief, and personally, and again, not that I would be opposed to this at this point in time, but if we're going to do that, there are also internal candidates on the Grafton Fire Department that were part of the process that we eliminated for the same reason. And so, if we're going to go down this road, it may be cleaner to do the process over completely than, just start handpicking who we think we might want to interview. It seems, just a little A little like we're handpicking who we want instead of really looking at all the
Well,
candidates. And so the search committee, did that due diligence, and that's where we landed, and we landed based on the scores. And so we took the people with the best scores who we thought would be qualified fire chiefs. All of them were already fire chiefs, and that's where we landed there. So and again, to Colleen's point, if we go and take a look at the job description, which in retrospect, we all, when asked, what do you want for in a fire chief? Of course, we're all probably kind of reaching for the moon a little bit. So if that's the case, and we're going to go down this road, we could open the pool to more, including people with qualifications like Mr. Bagma, and also some people within the Grafton Fire Department who may be interested.
well, then if that's the case, then I think that we second interview Chief Valentine.
Colleen?
I agree with Doreen in the sense that if we're going to go down this process, we need to keep it tight. We need to keep it clean. We can't do a dual track where we're interviewing and re-interviewing on the side, but at the same time, potentially casting a net to see what candidates we bring in, because that could just muddy the waters where people don't apply because they know we're still interviewing people. It's one or the other, in my opinion. It's definitely not both. I also wanted to pass some information along that when talking to Chief Gauthier, there is a possibility where he can file an extension with the state where he could stay on a little bit longer past, his forced retirement date. And he is willing to do that if we find ourselves in a bind where our timeline does get pushed. And I want to thank him and appreciate that as an option as well. Because if we're throwing everything on the table, that's a crucial one to know.
I'm not in favor of that, but
Right.
I just wanted to get that out.
Matt?
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I trust the assessment center scores. In my experience, what came out of the assessment center was fairly accurately reflected in terms of what we saw with the interviews. So I wouldn't be in favor, for me at least, in terms of going back to interview past candidates. I think we brought the candidates in that we wanted to, that were put forth by the search committee and the assessment center, and I think that was a good, thorough process and resulted in the best candidates to put forth, given the criteria that we put into the job description. I'm completely in support of revisiting the job description to try to make it a little bit more inclusive and maybe cast a slightly wider net. For me, after having several conversations with various members of the fire department over the past couple of days, I don't feel the same sense of urgency that I did when we first got the news, I guess, that our top can accept the role. I would be a little bit concerned about trying to rush a process, just get it restarted, try to squeeze it in before the end of the year. I think it's really unlikely based on before the end of the year. So for me, if I'm thinking about that, public safety is the top priority. We want to get this right. We want to have a good, thorough process where we feel comfortable and it produces a good result. I think we have to plan on some type of interim scenario where we're going past the beginning of the year. Mickey is retiring and we're having to have another fire chief. I'm very passionate that we have to have a fire chief. I'm not in favor of a plan where we have captains in charge of, sort of with a split responsibility for, for the command structure. I do think we need a fire chief, an interim fire chief. So for me, I'm in favor of moving forward with a process where we restart. I'm not looking to do that quickly, though. I'm looking to take a more deliberate approach to it. I do want to get some, I want to collaborate with the current command staff at the fire department to get their input on where we're at and what the best steps are for giving them the most support and the best chance of success, thinking about public safety in Grafton over the next 3 to 6 months. And so that's kind of where I fall down on the various options. And I would be open, potentially to an internal candidate for an interim. I have some concerns about bringing in an outside interim chief, which would have us sort of disrupting the fire department operations once, and then when we eventually get to our our final choice, then having another transition. I'm not sure I'd be in favor of that path.
Colleen?
So Ray voiced his opinion, but how does the rest of the board feel about if we're going down the path where we're discussing a possible interim chief? Do we want to ask our current chief to file an extension to get us through the hurdle?
I wanted to see if there's anybody else that have any other input first. I think that's a valid question. Just let me ask the board first before we move on to that one, because I did have that as a follow-up question, Colleen. Anyone else have any other feedback? Go ahead, Doreen.
I share the same sentiments as Matt does in terms of after several conversations over the past few days, I have a lot of confidence in our current fire department, and I would like to have a conversation with the captains, get their valuable input on where they would like to see us go from here. And I don't see this as an emergency. I certainly see it as something we need to do and be serious about, but I don't want to rush the process. And so to answer Colleen's question, so I don't raise my hand again, that is something I would be open to if the current captains, lieutenants, whoever we decide to involve in the conversation, including our current fire chief, if they believe that that's the best path forward. If they feel confident that Mickey can retire on time and we can move forward with a different plan that still keeps public safety in Grafton #1, and we're simultaneously looking for the right person for the job, then that's fine too. But if that's the best option, is to ask Mickey for an extension, yes, I'm in favor of that.
I haven't had a chance to kind of voice, my thoughts on this too. So I just want to, give everyone an opportunity first to kind of throw out what they thought their ideas and what the next steps and process would be. I too, agree. I think that, we need to reevaluate the job description and the requirements. I do believe that in some situations, less is more, and that if you can cast a wider net, you might find the right candidate, whether they're next door to you or across town lines or somewhere else. But I do believe that, and one of my takeaways from this process, and speaking with some of the members of the search committee over the past 24 hours, I got the sense that they felt that was a very constricting job description, and I would tend to agree. So my takeaway, would be something I would be in favor of that as well. I'm personally not in favor of any second interview at this time, for the purpose of, I don't think that's a good path to go down. Excuse me for a moment. My computer decided to go blank on me.
We can still hear you.
You can still hear me. I can't see you guys. So if you're making faces at me, that's good. I can't see you.
We are.
There you go.
Colleen and I are doing our crazy eyes.
Excellent. I deserve them all. I feel that in my previous history on working in human capital management, in working building teams and putting leaders in place in charge of large projects and doing that overall management, I feel that first thing that has to happen, this board really has to have an in-depth discussion about what that job description looks like. And I do feel that after talking to some of the command staff over the past 24 hours as well and hearing their input, I too feel that I have, and I've always had, all of the confidence in the world in our department. And I would hope that the board would join me in that statement, and knowing that the people that we have working for Grafton work as one team. Yeah, they might be three separate stations, but they work as one team. They train together. They were training last night at Wyman Gordon. So I just want to set that straight and make the record straight that regardless of what conjecture is put out on the internet, think about this, some blogs and some social media things is nothing more than just digital graffiti, okay? And people interpret it however they want. But I have all the confidence in the world in our department today, knowing that they're going to do their job. So I do feel that getting command's input on looking at the job description today and seeing what could be tweaked and getting some additional input from them is worth our while, and that's going to take some time. And I think that trying to get in a shorter time frame, I think, constrains us from having a really good thought leadership towards a more inclusive job description and requirements. I want to talk about the search committee for one moment. The nice thing I want to say, what I like about a search committee in general, is that you have a group of individuals who is focusing on gathering information. If we go down this road, gathering information, sorting through that, and then presenting us with a set of finalists that, in their opinion, and I do believe that the search committee that we did have in place that worked over the past 6 months did an outstanding job. They did a lot of yeoman's work for this town, and they spent hours and hours and hours vetting. And unfortunately, the outcome wasn't what anybody expected in this town. And to speak frankly, that's in our rearview mirror. So I think going forward, I do think that we need to really consider if we want to have a search committee, and I would be in favor of a new one. Even if it's some of the same members, I would encourage that they be giving new instructions and in a job description and something that they can work better with. So that's how I feel. I'm not in favor of bringing people in, like I said, for a second interview or looking at somebody who wasn't given or forwarded us to as a finalist. If we decide to repost this position and we make any type of augmentation or changes to it that enhances candidate selection, then there's nothing saying that any of these candidates can't reapply. Okay, they can come in, and that can be a level playing ground, level playing field for all other candidates. I don't want to go with a second interview at this time with the other two candidates. I feel that that opportunity has passed us, and that again is looking in the rearview mirror. I believe we should take a more deliberate approach and take our time in vetting this, in getting this in a position. I believe that an interim appointment may be something that we really need to seriously consider. At the same time, doing things in parallel. I don't think we just do the interim appointment, for an interim chief after January 1st and continue down the road of, well, we got someone there, this is not a priority. It needs to be a priority. So I think that our timeline is something that we need to set and discuss, and also discuss that with command as well. I feel that we're coming up on budget season. I would like to see some consistency in that department while they put together their FY23 budget, which, if I'm not mistaken, Evan and his department heads are well underway in preparing for that, even though we're about to have our October town meeting. So those are and I agree with some of you, with some of your statements. I'm just not in favor. I'm more in favor in some of them than I am in the others. So anyway, I kind of said my piece, and I'll open it up if people have some specific questions. So I know, Colleen, you had your hand up, so go ahead, and then Matt.
So it sounds like we're all in agreement that we want to change the job description. We want to cast the net again. We don't want to rush it. Nobody's in favor of trying to do a knee-jerk reaction, which is great. What we need to decide is an interim to get us over the hump. Is that bringing in an outside chief? Is that having Mickey apply with the state? Is that having the captains handle it for the 4 to 6 weeks or however many, whatever the time period may be? I will say, given our recent experience with an interim, I'm hesitant to bring an outside chief in for that, what might be a short period of time. I would prefer to either have our current chief stay on or have the captains handle it. And I don't know which is the best option until we meet with everybody. But I would say bringing an outside chief would be my third pick out of those top 3. And then since we are all in agreement that the search committee needs to kind of be recharged, is that something we can put on the agenda for Tuesday? Because a bulk of the charge is going to stay the same. The duties are still the same. I think it's the conversation of what's the membership going to look like, so we can get that going as fast as possible. And step 1 would be getting that on the agenda as fast as possible.
Anyone else have any? Doreen, go ahead. And I'm sorry, Matt was first, then Doreen. I'm sorry, Matt, you had your hand up first. Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, so I think as a board, it seems like we're all in agreement that we don't want to be doing anything knee-jerk. For me, rather than talk about charge of new committees and whatnot, I would prefer to just have everybody take a step back, take a deep breath, have the conversations that they need to have individually, have us bring in, some of the command staff in an upcoming meeting, whether that be Tuesday or another meeting, and for us to formulate a plan that, that we all agree on, and that the command staff are on board with. And I don't know necessarily that we need to jump to charges for nuke. I think we need to take this one step at a time, have the meeting with the fire department, and kind of go from there. The one other thing that I wanted to mention is I found the assessment center output to be crucial. So whatever process we go through, I would like to see that assessment center involved again with whatever candidates we'd be vetting.
Let me ask this question here, because we're talking, Matt, you brought up the assessment center twice. Is there, let me just kind of go down this list here, because I kind of, I took some notes here. So we're all in agreement about, revamping the job description. Ray, do you have any input on that? I just want to see if we can close that item out.
No, I agree with that.
Okay, so we can cross that off. That's a task that we need to accomplish. We talked about a new search committee. We talked about badge quest. If we can lump that together, what's the thoughts on the board about a new search committee with a revamped charge, with a revamped job description, and then still utilizing badge quest to some capacity? Go ahead, Colleen, and then Doreen.
I'll let Doreen go first, just because I'm quick on the draw.
Like Jeopardy.
Even with your seconds, so thanks, Colleen. Also, Mr. Chair, I was after Matt, but that's okay. It's fine. It's okay. So I was just going to say what Matt said, because I don't think we should make these decisions at this meeting. I feel like we're all in agreement that this is, not a sprint, and we should get input from the command center whenever we can get them on the agenda, get their input. And then after that, have the conversations about, do we want to include badge quest? Do we want a search committee? Because, based on conversations I've had over the past couple of days too, and again, like the more time that goes by and I'm able to think about the whole process, new ideas can come up and new solutions can come up. And I want to allow time for that. And if we're able to talk to members of the command center and do the same process we're doing here this afternoon, is like, just look at all our options and then choose one and then say, okay, this is the path we're going down. And it sounds like we're all sort of on the same page of where we want to go. And let's just start with step one, is like include the command staff in the conversation. And if they all say, yes, you need a new search committee, then we form a new search committee. Then we choose the members. But I feel like it's a little premature to do that in this meeting, in case we have to take a step back and have discussions. The second thing I just want to say, just to sort of wrap up the conversation about the other two candidates, is, and again, just sort of going through the whole process here, I was highly in favor yesterday of considering interviewing a second candidate, and today I'm not. So again, it just sort of shows, like, once you have conversations, once you have the opportunity to really think about things, new ideas and new options can pop up. And I feel like, I think Colleen said this earlier, that if they're interested, they can apply again. But I feel like we sort of need to close the door on what we did Tuesday. We did the process well. We didn't get a candidate that we wanted. So now we're sort of back at the starting line, and that's okay. But I don't really want to make any further decisions on what we should do until we include command staff in the conversation. And so my suggestion would be to invite them to a future meeting, which I think Matt said, and take it from there. And then, again, maybe have on that agenda, depending on how the conversation goes, do we form a search committee? Do we make the consideration of our current chief asking for an extension, things like that? But I feel like this is a preliminary conversation, and it's going to take a little more, couple more conversations in order for us to take action.
I want to pause there for one moment. I want to ask this question of the board, just from, steps and just timing. Does everyone agree that we should probably have that meeting with command staff first, before we get into search committee or job descriptions and so on and so forth? I mean, how does people feel about that? Colleen, and then
Peter,
Ray, 1 second. Let me go. You're third. Go ahead, Colleen, then Matt, then Ray.
Can't see anybody putting their hands up, so I don't know.
I know. I got your back.
So I think it is crucial that we have a conversation with command staff and our chief. I don't think that it necessarily needs to come before we decide if we need to update the charge or not. We're all in agreement that we want to do the search, and to do the search, we're going to need a charge to do the search committee. I think you can have a dual track of both. And we do know that we are facing a timeline, in no matter what steps we take. I don't want to rush it, but I want to work with deliberate haste, and I don't want to, drag it out meeting after meeting after meeting either. So I do think there's an agenda. You can have more than one agenda item. I don't see why you couldn't have command staff on Tuesday's agenda and talk about the charge. There's no reason why we can't do both to utilize the time we have in the best possible way.
Okay, Matt, and then Ray.
So I'd be in favor of just meeting with the command staff as a first step. I think that may inform. I do recognize that we have a timeline that we're working against, but I also have an expectation that we're going to have to deal with some type of extension or interim or something else. So we're going to have to make those decisions anyways, and so I'm not feeling a sense of urgency to have everything be happening all at the same time. I'd like to take a little bit more, methodical approach to it. So I'd be in favor of just meeting with command staff on Tuesday or at the earliest convenience.
Okay, Ray.
So I'm in favor of meeting with the captains. The captains are running the companies, and they know what happens within the companies, and I think that we need to get their advice. And I know everybody's saying command staff, and I heard somebody say the current chief, and I don't think the current chief should be involved in this. He hasn't been involved in anything anything, the MRI study, the fire study. He'd not been involved in anything, and at this point, to bring him in to help us try to get a process is in my opinion just not good. So I would be in favor of meeting with the captains, getting their opinion. They run the companies, they know what's going on, and then we move on from there.
Okay. Doreen, is that, and Colleen, any feedback on that before I say something?
I mean, I don't think we should be talking about the chief like that. I don't.
Okay.
I'll also add that today we have a strong fire chief in place, and that's our fire chief. And so whether or not he decides to send the captains to the meeting or wants to be involved, I would like to leave the call up to him.
Go ahead, Matt.
To me, an invite to Chief Gothier is a must-have. He may or may not choose to participate. As Doreen said, he might delegate that to staff, but it would be really disrespectful to not. I think he's a crucial part of this conversation, no matter what happened.
I just want to weigh in on that. So, when we talk about meeting with command staff, it's just interesting. I wasn't just thinking captains. I know captains, take command on, the scenes, and they're kind of like the head of each one of the companies before it goes up to, deputy chief and chief. But I would think, like, if we're talking with command staff, that we include the lieutenants as well. There's a number of lieutenants at each one of the stations. I think them being part of the conversation as well, at their earliest convenience. I know it might be impossible to get them all at once. I know everyone's got different schedules, things are going on in life and stuff, but I think if we could cast that net, and I will say this, that, Chief Gothier is the chief of the department today, and will be until upon his time of, he just, when he has to resign and retire at the end of the year. And yes, I would agree that before we extend the invitation to his staff, he's the first person I go to, because that's the department head. And that's, in my opinion, when you look at the org chart, that's the first person I go to. So before I even go to a department head in town hall, I talk to Evan first, saying, Evan, I want to go and talk to the town planner. Evan, I want to go talk to the building. I want to go talk to someone in the assessor's office, accounting, treasurer collector. So that's the way I operate, and I think that that's a reasonable approach. If Chief Gothier decides to attend, I think that's his prerogative. I would welcome it. I would. He's got 40 years of experience of incident command and leading this department for the past 18 years. And to exclude that, I think, is a detriment to his years of service and knowledge that he could bring to the table for us to contemplate and decide. I would also recommend that, in just kind of hearing the way this is being structured, having that meeting first with them and then deciding, on search committee, charge, job description. I'm kind of seeing the just, and I would agree with the rest of you in the majority here that that would be our first step. And let's set that meeting up at the earliest convenient time. I will try to ask them if they can make it on Tuesday. If I can get a wide enough of department there, then we'll see about moving forward. Is there a desire from this board to meet on another night besides Tuesday? And if so, could like a Thursday work for you, either next week or the week after next? Just give me some dates and times so I have something. I don't want to say it's one and done. You got to come Tuesday and I only get 2 people. So, Doreen.
So I don't have our calendar in front of us, but are we, so after town meeting, we have a meeting this coming Tuesday.
On 19th.
We have a meeting the following Tuesday. We don't. So I would be open to meeting that Tuesday that we don't have a meeting specifically to discuss this, if they cannot meet this Tuesday.
I'll second that.
All right. Is there any objection to including all of the command staff as part of the discussion?
I'm fine with that.
I think that's a great idea.
All right. Colleen, Ray, I didn't hear from you guys.
I shook my head.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. I can't see Ray's head. I can't see if he's nodding or not. He's on the phone, so I appreciate it. Okay. And I'll look to shoot for the 26th. Is there another date, just in case they have something scheduled that day that they can't change? Is there a desire that we could possibly offer the 28th of October?
I mean, let's just start with the 19th and the 26th and go from there. I think that's two reasonable dates. If we start having too many dates, then some people are going to say, I can do this day, I can do that day. Let's just stick with these first two. And if it's not reasonable, then we can talk about it on Tuesday.
Oh, the only problem I think with Tuesdays is they might be doing something that they might have planned for the company. So offering another day of the week besides just the 2 Tuesdays is what I'm really asking for. And I figure why not shoot for the 28th? I just need to know if that's free for people. And if I realize that that's something that's open to, all of the command structure, I would recommend that we would do that to get the most inclusive amount of people here. Be inclusive and get the most amount of people here. Sorry.
I'm open to it. So we wouldn't meet on Tuesday and we'd meet
Wait a
on
minute, no. I'm just saying if Tuesday's a problem. So if the 19th is a problem, then we go to the 26th. If we realize the 26th is a problem because let's say they've got something planned that they can't move. I don't know. I have to ask their schedule. I don't have their schedule in front of me, so I don't know. But then if they have something usually on a Tuesday, then I would go to like another day of the week, like Thursday of that week. Colleen?
Peter, that's why I said just do what you can with the 2 dates. And then on Tuesday, when we do meet, you'll have more information and you will know the answers to these questions instead of us trying to speculate and guess. On Tuesday, you'll either tell us, hey, they showed up tonight, or they're going to come next week, or this is the day that works for them. Does it work for you?
Okay. Let me just ask this. Is anyone available on the 28th? I know, Colleen, you want me to do a certain way, but I'm asking that question. Does the 20th work for Matt, Doreen, and Ray? Great. That's all I need.
Yeah, I'm available.
Great. I'll work on that and get back to you guys. Okay. So we've got that first. And the second task will be working on the follow-up to that. Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions the board has? Doreen?
Do you think we should disband the other search committee and when?
A question. Yeah. What's the board think? It's our search committee.
I think we should, if we're planning on reforming it. I think we need to re-examine their charge and the membership, and so I think for now we should tie a bow on that one and move forward with the new search committee would be my recommendation. I on that topic, I guess I just want to recognize the work that search committee put in, at their own time and their own, I know that I really very deeply appreciate the work that committee did. I know for myself, Tuesday night / Wednesday morning was a bit of a letdown, and I felt a little bit raw about the whole process, having put so much time and effort just myself into it. I can only imagine that there might be some feelings amongst that committee, the difficulty that we're facing at this stage. And it was a great process that we went through. I really appreciate the work that they did. It was extremely valuable and it was not wasted by any means. So, we are where we are today. But I do want to just, recognize with gratitude the work that they all put into that, because and mention that it wasn't wasted by any means. So thank you all on the committee for that. But for the board, I do think we should just tie a bow on it and move forward to the next search committee, unless the rest of the board feels like we want to keep that active and just reuse that same membership and in that same structure. I'd recommend we reevaluate it.
Colleen, Ray, any comments? Doreen?
No problem.
Yeah, I just want to say, well said, Matt, that I feel the same way. And being a part of the search committee, I I can firsthand appreciate the amount of work, the amount of hours, and how serious this committee took it. And we're sort of like passing the ball forward. We thought we were done, and we're not done. But it's by no means a reflection of the committee, just like I said earlier, just like it's no reflection of the board. I think the process worked really well. I think everybody has done a great job, and we just haven't found the right candidate yet. And that's it's okay. We'll get there. So thank you to everybody on the committee. And certainly if there's an interest, if we go ahead with another search committee, if that's the path we choose, and there's interest, we'll let everybody know. But we may not even go there, right? So I mean, there's a possibility we'll never form another search committee. So I'm in agreement that we should just sort of wrap that up.
Okay, Colleen, did you have any input on that?
Yeah, I guess I have a question about her last statement. That we might not form another search committee, but we're all in agreement to put another search out. So I do think we will be for sure forming another search committee. But what am I missing for you to think that we might not?
So, there's always, we work in local government. There's always that 5% that we could take this in a completely different direction. I mean, who knows? There could be, again, like an internal candidate that comes up, or something that happens that we didn't know about, this week, that comes up and we realize we don't need a search committee. So it's unlikely, but I am just keeping it in this conversation at this meeting a completely open mind, and as we move forward here. That's all.
So I do have a question for the board. Is we've all agreed that the next step is to have a discussion with command staff. What is it that we hope to achieve with that discussion?
For me, it's our best option, and that they're involved in the conversation. They're the department, and there's accountability on all sides, and as we move forward with this.
I totally agree. It's important to have. I just want to know, what is it that we're hoping to achieve?
Anyone else? Matt, Ray?
Yeah, from my standpoint, I would like to get an opinion from command staff on what our best options are for supporting the fire department in its current state, given the our current chief's timeline for retirement. We have different options, from inside, outside interims, and having captains manage things on an interim basis. And I'd like to hear specifically what their thoughts are on those various options as we contemplate this potential interim solution between our current chief and the next. That's one of the key pieces. I'd also like to hear from them directly. What do they see as key traits for their next chief?
Ray, did you have any input?
No, I mean, I think talking to the captains and lieutenants will be great.
All right. So, Colin, before you go, I want to say I would agree with the objective here is to have the conversation, discuss perhaps what had happened. I know it's yesterday's news. Get their input as to what contingency plans that would make sense for them. They know their department better than we do. I want to put ourselves in the best possible position to continue supporting our fantastic fire department and the men and women who serve for us. So my objective with meeting with them would be to get to that level, and then I can make a better informed decision, I think, given the circumstances and the state in which we're in. Colleen, you had your hand up.
Well, we have them and we get all of those answers. Would it make sense to ask for their input on the job description, or leave that to the next committee?
I think that's open to us. I think that's a good, valid question for them. I mean, you've got, personally, I feel you've got captains, lieutenants, you've got command structure that's already there. You've got people with years of experience. I think it's worth getting some feedback if we're going to reevaluate the job description. Evan, you had your hand up. Sorry.
I would recommend against asking subordinates to create their boss's job description. That's generally not a prudent move in my opinion. Not that they don't all have inputs and know what they're talking about. Um, I think as a practice that's not great. That's all.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board on that?
Yeah, I would agree with Evan. I thought we were bringing in the captains and the lieutenants to talk about what to do when the current chief retires, and ask them their thoughts on the department, not put together a job description for them.
Nope, not put together, just to see if they had any suggestions on tweaks, and that's why I asked the question.
Look, we can solicit input from whoever we want. We don't have to take that advice. We're free to make our own decision. And I would agree that, it's not typical practice to have subordinates create their boss's job description. But Matt, go ahead.
Sure. I guess one other thing that I would be interested in getting some input on, to inform our, our sense of where things are at, is just how are the fire service operations working today? And are there gaps that we need to fill? Are there supports that we need to be providing to them? What's the reality of boots on the ground response today? But because I've heard a lot of rhetoric about our fire department, I'd like to hear directly from them how they think things are going. Because in speaking with individuals, I have a different opinion than what I've heard in some public forums.
Okay. Doreen?
And Peter, I just want to add to that I feel like it'll be informative to our timeline as well. Just, how long we would have an interim, what that would look like, whether or not there would be an extension of the current chief, what that would look like. I feel like that's crucial information for us to make any decisions moving forward.
Anything else? All right, I'll take the commentary from the video and I'll put together an outline for that meeting and share it with the department prior, so they can be thinking about that ahead of time, and they're not being put on the spot. With that, is there any other questions or comments from the board? I know we've kind of talked about various things tonight, but it sounds like to me we've got a prescribed course of action here that will get us to step one, and then we'll eventually step two, and then we can start refining and defining what that process will look like going forward. And do I have some agreement here with that, or is there something else that I may have missed that we need to discuss? Okay. I guess that's all I have. I want to thank everyone for making it out tonight. I appreciate you with my patience in making sure I can be here as well. I think this is important that all of us were here to discuss this. I want to appreciate and extend my thanks to the search committee for a lot of hard work they've done. And I also want to, extend my condolences that it didn't work out the way that it was intended. And, I think everyone understands here, if you've ever been in hiring, life happens. And, sometimes these little setbacks are great opportunities for us to take better leaps forward. I know that sounds kind of corny, but I always look at the glass as half full, not empty. I want to appreciate all the work that Evan, Chief Crapo, Lydia Bogar, Darab Fadavi, Mike Korda, and Bob Shimeko, and you as well, Doreen, for being on the search committee. I will be sending personal letters to each of you, thanking you all for all of the work and hours that you put into this. And, if we see fit to move forward, then we'll repost, like we said, but we'll get to that point. If there isn't anything else, I'll get back to everybody with dates and times, and work within the first primary dates that we talked about. And if we have to work on a tertiary one, that will be the last resort. I want to thank everyone again for making it out. Evan, William, thank you very much. And Joanne, thanks for posting the agenda first thing this morning for us at the last minute. At this point, I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion made, second to adjourn. All those by roll call, please. Mr. Fazio.
Fazio, aye.
Mr. Mead.
Mead, aye.
Mr. Often.
Often aye.
Ms. Roy.
Roy, aye.
Carlson, aye. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you next week. Cheers.